Hello everyone and welcome to another stream. I'm Daniel and thanks for joining. So let's see. I guess it's just Saturday again and I just want to share my sculpting today with everybody. We don't have a guest today actually. Oh, so many people joining already. Hi everyone. See, today I have the comments over here on the side, so that you can actually read along. I think that in the recordings people wouldn't see the stream, the chat, so I thought it might be useful. So, how is everybody doing? I'll just get started working on stuff here, okay? Please don't expect me to talk too much today because it's probably quite difficult to focus on both speaking and sculpting at the same time. You can basically lead the discussion. If you have anything in particular you want to talk about, just throw it out and Nice. Somebody's taking a break from work. That's always good, I guess. So, how is everybody doing with their 3D modeling and art and stuff? Are you guys all here for like 3D modeling? I don't really know. In the meantime, let me give you a quick what is it? A summary of what I'm planning to do today with this sculpt. So, not much has changed since last week. I haven't had too much time to sculpt in my free time because I was quite busy with university, but my plan is to just sculpt another face to practice the different features, particularly the eyes. So as soon as I have kind of smoothed out a few things, I'll get started with the eyes and kind of work on that part. So Mustafa is asking if I'm going to make another character modeling tutorial, and it's funny because this question comes up every time, and that's understandably, of course, because even I think that's a very important video that has to be made in the future. However, it will still take a while, and I kind of keep saying this, but the reason for why I'm not making a video right now is because I feel that even if I was to make it right now, I couldn't make it much better than the last one, if better at all. So I don't want to produce a new video if I cannot like provide better quality, better education in that sense. So you'll have to be a bit patient about that. Yeah, so interestingly, the way people start out their models is quite different, isn't it? I think it was very obvious like the past couple of weeks when I worked together with another artist, like next to each other, and you could really see the difference. I used to start with the sphere until recently, but since I kind of want to stop dealing too much with the proportions, I want to get straight into modeling the features for practice, especially recently on these couple of sculpts here. I decided to take this base mesh that you can just find here. I just noticed that my user interface is quite different, isn't it? Where are all the elements gone to? I must have accidentally pressed some something on the keyboard that made it go like this. Anyways, you have the lightbox button here, and then you can open these 3D models like this one, and so I just started out with it because it gives me a good base mesh to work with. And since I'm completely going to modify it from here on, it's not going to be like you know how you feel that it's not your artwork. It really isn't that way, because because you have more than enough opportunities to make it completely yours in the meantime. So if you don't mind sharing it, how would you start a 3D model or a sculpt or something? I'm curious because somebody actually mentioned this topic in the chat. Somebody else asks in the meantime what I'm planning to do after university. Let me quickly answer that one. Basically, recently I did decide that I want to stick in with doing 3D models. I actually do want to do that in my future and use this as a profession, but it is not as easy as it sounds. Like, you might look at this channel and think that this is pretty high quality, but in reality, when I apply to a company, I still don't have the skills necessary to get a job. At least I feel that way. I've not tried, of course, but I would like to try that, to get into a company, because as soon as I get employed with doing 3D models, I'll be forced to work on it for a couple of hours a day. So that will be a huge boost in like my technical skills as well, because as soon as I have a job, I'll have to continuously keep studying. And so maybe this is, even if it's not the most fun situation to be in, I might want to bring myself into that situation in order to get the practice that I want. So at least for the first step after graduation, I'm planning to find some sort of employment in this field for at least a couple of years. And to William on the chat, who asks if ZBrush Core comes with the standard loaded tools. It does with some of them, but do you mean like a tool that is everything preset with Dynamesh and so on? I mean, basically I have all the features here, it's just a couple of clicks away. I personally prefer to just start out with the most simple object that I could start out with. I mean, let's say just geometry. I don't want ZBrush to mess too much with my settings in that sense, because those I'll set up for myself afterwards anyways. But if there's any certain advantage to it that I don't see, let me know. Let me try these buttons for a second. I feel like my layout changed because I pushed them. Ah, indeed. See, now I have the default layout back, and the lightbox is up here, and basically in the project section you have these tools loaded. You can open all of them and start working from there. It's quite convenient actually. And so for this project I could have also used these more detailed faces, but I wanted to start a bit more simple to challenge myself, and so this is sort of where I started out with. Oh, and also William says that he usually starts out with a sphere or an asset that he has already created previously. So I totally agree, that's a very good way to start out with a ZBrush sculpt. So how do you pronounce that? CCAT609 asks, when you do the topology of your characters, do you use a set amount of vertices around the eyes, mouth, neck, and so on? I really struggle with that, and I never end with a consistent amount of vertices. Interesting question. I've actually never thought about that too much. What I usually do is I start out with a chain of polygons. It's very important to make sure that the number is even, because then you'll run into less issues with keeping everything in quads. But other than that, I just adapt the amount of vertices to the amount of detail that I have. And of course you want to try keeping it as low as possible. As low as possible, but without losing details. And that might be a vague way of putting it, but let's see. I guess you just have to find the right balance, because if you have too many, you won't be able to control them, because you have to select them one by one after all, and it will take like hours to put all of them into place. But if you're too low again, you will have not enough detail. And what you want to make sure is that the eyes have a bit like more of a density as in detail, that the mouth has a bit more density in vertices, and the nose as well, while you want to keep the head area and the cheeks kind of lower because they have so smooth shapes. That's of course where the topology of the 3D model comes in useful. It will, the kind of setup that we all learn when we study this kind of topic on the internet is already made in a way that the density is alright in all those places, but it's just something also to keep in mind, I believe. And I just see another good question came up in the chat. If it is required to, if the skill, well, if you have to be able to draw like 2D art, I believe, in order to become a 3D artist. And in my opinion, it isn't, well, there is nothing required in the first place, but it is very, very useful if you can actually draw. And the reason for why that is because in 3D modeling you will be very often confronted with figuring out the right proportions, figuring out the right position of things, and if you don't have that skill, you will be limited to only modeling things that you see in reference. So technical modelers who don't have this ability to draw tend to be very good at like copying reference. So when you give them a front view and a side view, they'll be able to very well replicate that. But what do you do once you lose the reference? Like if there is no reference, for example. So then most artists would be stuck without drawing skills, because it is the drawing skills that teach you how these different areas of a model are related to each other, and how you can fill in those informations that are missing. So if you're interested in that in the first place, definitely don't miss out on drawing, because it will help you a lot, for sure. So I have another little story to share, just about my past week. I said I was quite busy, and that's really true. I mean, I had holidays until the middle of the week, so until then it was fine, but the past couple of days have been quite busy and so on. But apart from that, last weekend I've actually been to a neighboring city here where I live, because the place where I live is not a big city really. It's quite a small one with about 100,000 people living here, and I've always been a bit upset about the fact that I just can't find anything related to my hobby, 3D modeling, here around. So I started researching a little bit about opportunities nearby, at least, to get involved with people who like 3D modeling. And so I figured out that in a neighboring city there's a university that had a circle that actually, like circle as in a club, that where students gather and they talk about 3D modeling, they make games and all that kind of thing. And it was very interesting because I got the opportunity to go there. I contacted them after finding out about them. They invited me to come. And so for the first time I was able to go to such a 3D modeling circle, club, whatever you want to call it. And so it kind of got me thinking again about this question of how important maybe social aspects are in doing a hobby on a regular basis. Because if you don't have a circle that you can participate in, you will be forced to motivate yourself on a daily basis, and nobody will be there to tell you that you shouldn't stop or that you shouldn't give up But when you're in a circle, there will be people around you who can also always motivate you and give you a reason to continue. So that was kind of a very nice aspect of it. But there was also another aspect, which I'll talk about in a second. Just let me get some water. So the other thing that I was thinking about is that the way of looking at the art of people who are, what should I say, technically more skilled than yourself is quite interesting when you compare it between the people, because very often people will be kind of intimidated or have lots of respect in a positive way as well, but I keep wondering if that's a good thing to look at it in that way. Like, of course respect is a good thing and everything, but what I experienced is that people start comparing themselves to someone who is way better or way more skilled than themselves, but they don't take it as energy for themselves to develop faster or develop better or whatnot. They just basically say, wow, that's amazing, and it ends with that, and kind of leaves a little bit of a frustration with their own work. And I was kind of feeling a bit that was a bit of an inappropriate feeling in such a situation. So I quickly wanted to mention that topic as well, that when you get the opportunity to meet someone who you think is more skilled or more educated at the thing that you want to do, even though it is very correct probably to respect them to let them know as well, just make sure that you use those situations as an opportunity to learn, and also as an opportunity to motivate yourself rather than bringing yourself down because you just realize, how much more you'll have to do to get there. All right. Now on my side, I guess I'll I kind of have an idea of where I want to take this sculpt, but here is one problem that I always run into when sculpting recently. So I start out with the idea that I want to practice modeling the eyes, and then I'll move on and work on the neck. I'll fix the ears, I'll fix everything else, but then I never get to actually work on the eyes. So yeah, that's kind of always very distracting to have so many other things that kind of look a bit wrong to me that I want to fix before moving on. But anyways, let's see. So if anybody has questions at this point, feel free to throw them out. Yeah, unfortunately we don't have any guests today. Millennium in particular has got other things to do recently, so he won't be joining us anytime soon. I actually had a guest invited, but unfortunately he didn't make it in the end, so that was that. Initially, the idea for this stream was anyways to just stream my sculpting. I was very glad that it kind of got very conversational, but I wonder if that's really what I wanted to do on my side. Oh, I have one more good news to share, by the way. So I've been saying that I want to get a VR headset for a long time now. It turns out that I finally got the opportunity to order one, so I'm still waiting for it, but I'm very excited for for finally getting my own VR headset. And so this is probably going to show up on my YouTube channel too very soon. Like, do you know these applications that Oculus and some other developers developed for their platforms, where you can sculpt in VR space and draw in VR? Basically those tools I want to use a lot. I mean, just for fun mainly. It's not a real professional tool at this point, I believe, but I'm very looking forward to trying out those things. There's one particular way of using it that I really like. So you'll be having this 3D space and your brushes in your hand and everything, but you'll also be able to look at 3D models at the same time by using, for example, by loading some 3D model in, or by opening some 3D models from Sketchfab, for example, that website where there are so many 3D models. So I was thinking of basically putting these head scans or body scans that I want to work with into this VR space, and put my canvas basically next to it, and maybe I'll be able to work as if you know, my model was actually standing in front of me. So that is very exciting, because you never get that. Like, even if you got a person to volunteer to stand in front of you for your practice, they won't be able to stand for longer than an hour at most. That's the difficult part. But if it was a VR space, then it would be just a 3D model. So that's very nice. So now I guess I'll go on and talk about my sculpt a little bit this time, as no comments come up. Oh, actually somebody commented. Oh, I heard about Unreal Engine VR editor. They have something like that, don't they? Have you tried that, using that before? I'm a bit curious about that, because I'm always questioning a bit the productivity of that editor, because it looks like it's very useful if you have all your assets prepared and everything is ready. But then at the same time, if you have to switch back and forth between 3D applications and your editor, it feels a bit unproductive to jump into VR just to place your assets. Oh, hey Millennium, look at who is in the chat. Alright, so as for my sculpt at this point, I kind of I just want to explain my workflow a little bit. So what people will usually suggest to you is to work from very low detail first to high detail, and in other words that means to fix proportions before moving on to details. And while I'm not doing this perfectly yet, I just wanted to comment on this step where, for example, here I was working on the mouth, but I feel like this is not, like, if I followed this shape, it wouldn't end up in the right proportions. So I want to kind of take a big move brush and start moving parts around a little bit to get my proportions a bit better. So if you find yourself working on a sculpt and it just looks kind of odd, try not messing with the details too much for once. Try to take a big brush and just to move things generally around a little bit. Maybe this will get you somewhere else. And the brushes that I like to use usually, by the way, are the clay build-up brush a lot for basically adding and taking away clay. But the other one that I really like is Trim Dynamic, which in this case, for example, I can just touch a little bit on and it will give me this nice edge on the side. It will basically make the area that I touch a planar surface, which can be very useful. By the way, here's an idea. I was wondering if anybody was interested in doing sort of a feedback session where you could, a critique session where you could submit your own characters and in the stream get a little sort of feedback on my opinions on which parts you could kind of change in the sculpt, or sort of that thing. Is there anybody interested in that sort of thing? It would require people to kind of submit their work, but I'm kind of curious about if that is an option. Because many people keep asking me for advice. Yeah, somebody seems interested in that already. Okay, I guess I'll check out your page on ArtStation then. Just give me a second. I'm going to do that on the other computer next to me. And just to answer Millennium's question, yeah, I do think I will actually do videos where I'll be sculpting in VR. Maybe that's even possible as a live stream. We'll see. Alright, let's search for this. Oh wow, You have quite some cool art on your page, I gotta say. Well, is there any particular project that you want feedback on? Let me ask you that maybe. So, CCAT609 posted some information about their projects on ArtStation, and it's kind of cool. So from what I see, he or she does more kind of objects and like a little bit of environments. But in the more recent section, there are a few characters as well. I really like how you actually finish your projects, like it has sort of a finished quality to it. What I always find with my own art is that it will be maybe a nice sculpt, but it will never be finished. It's always just a work in progress that will be forever just for practice. Well, your more recent characters really aren't that bad. What kind of characters are you trying to make? I'm kind of curious about that. Are the few characters that I see there the ones that you like, the kind of thing that you want to make? Or is it more like you have other goals, but this is as far as you get so far with your skills? Hey there, new people joined the stream. Good morning to the friend of mine who is here now. So personally, I want to focus on character art. Eventually, I do want to do more, but I feel a bit the time pressure in university now, because you always have this countdown towards graduation, and I really want to have the skills on a level that allow me to get a job, basically. So personally, I will be focusing on characters. Just to answer the other question that Mustafa, I think, just asked me. And CCAT609 says that he wants to be able to do humans. Not really interested in fantastic creatures or anything like that, but more realistic is better. Interesting. Well, sure, you can send, like, just send me a mail. I think you can find my mail address, and we can talk a bit more about that. I'm sure it would be interesting. I'm kind of curious about that myself. Like seeing how other artists work is even for me an opportunity to learn. It's definitely not a one-sided thing. Alright, I hope you guys don't mind me sculpting a bit in silence today. I'm pretty much going to do 1 to 1.5 hours of sculpting today. But if you have any questions, like, feel free to throw them in, of course. Katie Bressford, who is that? I'll try to look her up. Somebody just mentioned a person in the chat who apparently is also a character artist. Let's see. Interesting. Well, I will look it up later. Well, it looks like we have a bunch of people here who like doing art and stuff. Whoever wants to share like their work, feel free to do so. I'm kind of curious now. I've looked now at a few different artists, and it's really interesting to see what different people work on. So yeah, we'll just see. If anything comes up in the chat, I'll go and take a look. Is there anyone from Russia, by the way? I have a reason for asking that. I'll explain in a bit. Or anyone who speaks Russian. Doesn't look like it. Too bad. Because there is one YouTuber that makes videos about character modeling. And his videos have some amazing content. But the unfortunate part is that his 6-hour-long video on hair model, was it hair? I think hair, is all in like Russian. So you can't even really just watch it and hope that you will understand it, because, well, actually that's what I should do. Yeah, I'll probably do that. But it's just a really long video with somebody who speaks as much as I do today on the stream, so like very few comments, and the content will be great, like it will be so amazing, but I just don't get what he's doing in so many points. Why should I not tell her about you? Somebody, what is it? That's kind of continued with the story about, who was it? Katie something, the character artist. That indeed sounds suspicious. Oh, there is somebody who speaks Russian. Actually, let me share the video then, just as a link. I will... How should I get this to... Oh, I know. Just give me a second. I'll post it in the chat in a few seconds. Because it's quite an amazing video, but, well, I don't understand it, so that's the other thing. Alright. I got the video. Now let me post it in the comments. Yeah, so feel free to check that out. I would love to learn from these sort of people, but obviously we all know how hard it can be to get in touch with these great people. Like probably all of them, they're like employed at some studio and they'll be very busy with their work and they won't be allowed to talk too much outside of their work and about their work in particular. Oh no, I'm sorry if you get video recommendations about that for next month. But you gotta say, like the video that I just posted, it's kind of amazing, isn't it? The quality of the work in there. I think the 6 hours are just about the hair for the most part. I'm not sculpting anyone in particular. Let me see. Darin Lilie. Oh my god, I never know how to pronounce these names. But another person came up in the chat, so let me quickly open that up to look at later. Darin Lilie. Ah, that person. Yeah, I've seen some of his videos before. He is really into the whole Blender community still, and like making tutorials for Blender. I think his channel is a very, very good place for people who want to get into 3D modeling and start out with all of that, learning the technical side of Blender in particular. I wish I knew how to sculpt with likeness. Once I achieve that, I'll share my knowledge, don't worry. But yeah, I think it's too early for that, for me. there's another little topic that I kind of want to touch on, which is kind of interesting because it is about again, just another technique and another piece of your mindset that might be useful for studying 3D modeling and everything. But the reason why this one in particular is funny is because it's very reversed. So I feel sometimes that it is important to kind of make fun of your own work, to say very publicly that your work is not to be taken serious, and that, you know, you're just playing around and it's probably awful, but it's alright this way. The reason for that being is that when you raise expectations too high, that it might become very hard for you to show your work to other people, which might lead to you losing motivation to do work at all, and that sort of thing. So it might also just be a personal thing, but for me to like lower the level of expectations a lot by saying that, you know, just studying, just playing around, it really helped me. And I feel sometimes that this can be something for other people too, to solve some issues with. Do you know, for example, these people who always keep saying they don't want to show their art, them working on something, to others? Like, it's not a bad thing, of course, but there can be many reasons for that, like completely unrelated ones too. But at the same time, often it will be because they kind of present themselves to be better than what they actually can do, and people around them will accordingly expect them to be better. And then if they were to show their process of making art, they would be disappointed, and so to avoid that, they just don't show it. Let me catch up with the chat. Yeah, I think that's a good point what Douglas Rosa is saying there. Like, as in, she or he says that sometimes you reach a limit to what you can teach before going back to study yourself. And that is kind of interesting because indeed there are two sides to it though, because when you teach to somebody what you have learned, that requires you to, or in order to teach, let me put it this way, you need to know a lot more about the subject than just knowing it. And so even if you're not yet in a position to teach, if you just say, I will teach about it now, it is a very good way of actually learning. So while it might not be the best thing for others to watch that video, because it might not be the best quality content, obviously because you're just starting out with it, you yourself as the teacher might learn a lot from making the video or the teaching session or whatever it is. So both sides are kind of true. Like, if you want to be a really good teacher, if what matters is the quality of the teaching, yeah, definitely you will probably most likely have to go back to study again, but then if your goal is to study and not to teach others, then you can still do teaching and gain from it. But yeah, maybe not everybody will gain from it so much as you do. Thanks for posting your like other, like, your pages where you have your artworks, by the way. I don't have time to look at every single one right now, I feel, because a bunch of them came up now, but I'll keep the chat open and look at them later on. And don't forget that you can always contact me. Like, I'm always interested in getting in touch with some artists around the world. As much as my schedule allows it, I will do my best to reply. Today my sculpt doesn't want to get right. Let's see. And it's funny, I didn't even get to do the eyes yet. Well, that was to be expected, I guess. Okay, let me just move on to the eyes now. I should really do something that I can learn from. So one topic that was very present for me, like very important to me in the recent days, was how to deal with this very overwhelming feeling of having a lot to do. In my case, for example, there's always the struggle between classes and my hobbies, because I usually do quite good in like academics, because it's kind of I have to. It's kind of a requirement to the situation that I'm in. So, but at the same time, what's really important to me right now is my 3D skills. And so I will try to maximize the time that I can do sculpting. But what do you do when all of a sudden something goes wrong, and one of the courses that you take kind of requires a lot more studying or a lot more attention than usually, and then or let's say, for example, a lot of assignment is being given out at once, and basically for the whole week or longer it seems like you won't be able to get back to sculpting at all, and then there's just this dark outlook on the whole future life at the university, where this situation will come up over and over and over and over. So, and in that situation, personally, I felt that it's very important to stay positive, to kind of really believe that things will go better after this, that, you know, it's just a temporary situation, and so on. And that's pretty much what I'm doing, and how I go through that. But I'm curious if anybody else has experiences with that. I mean, everybody's situation will be completely different, so not sure what to expect, but if anybody has a story. It's quite funny here at university, actually. People say, like, funny in a little bit sarcastic sense, of course. People here say that, or the reason why people don't want to get sick here is not because they don't want to, you know, go through the week of headache and whatnot. It's pretty much because when you get sick, you'll be very bad off with your grades, because here people don't care whether you're sick or not, but if you're absent, you'll lose points, and you can get, like, what is it, from the doctor, you know, a paper that says that you're actually sick, and they won't do anything horrible to your grade. But the problem is you have to go actually to a doctor, and the closest, because we live on a mountain here, is like an hour away or so by bus. So on top of being ill, you'll have to move out, and it's kind of cold outside and everything. So so basically people will hope that if they get sick, they want to get sick during the break, the vacations and everything, because that's the only time when you can, well, you can allow yourself to be stuck in the bed for a couple of days. Yeah, so that's our motivation to stay healthy. Because it's basically your fault if you get sick, that's what we're told. Oh hey, Lime Studios, by the way, that's his YouTube name. It has been a while. How are you doing these days? So let me quickly explain this. I owe him kind of a shout out anyways. There is someone called Lime Studios in the chat right now. He's actually the person who worked with me on Project Core. He was so kind to develop the menu of the game. He also helped a lot with the implementation of the whole story text system showing up, and I think he even did the locomotion system in the end, where we compared like a bunch of different versions. He helped a lot in general. Unfortunately, we haven't been too much in contact since then, but he has a pretty cool project on his channel. He does kind of a rhythm music game. So definitely, if you're interested, head over to his channel and take a look at it. You might like it. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, feel free to contact me. I'm looking forward to your mail. Wow. It is 3 a.m. in your place. Well, here it is 10 a.m. So I'm just tired from waking up like an hour ago. But that's all. I was thinking about moving the time of the stream back and forth a little bit, but in the end this is just the most convenient for myself, because even today I have a bunch of things coming up, but in the morning usually I'll be free because I'll keep the time for sleeping, so just by getting up a little bit earlier than usual I'll have 2 hours or so for streaming. Let's see, 7 p.m. for you then. That must be somewhere in the United States. Just a guess though, I'm not sure. What do you mean by you feel like a Pokemon professor looking at this sculpt? 5 p.m. on the West Coast. That makes something around 7 p.m. in the middle to East Coast. Interesting. Well, it's not too bad of a timing. I guess most of you will be eating dinner or something around this time. Oh, I hate this. I'll never get this right, will I? Whether my character is a girl or a boy. Let me just say this. I'm working on it. And someday you will be able to tell it. I wonder what the features are that really make the difference. Like particularly in my case, why I don't get it right. I get suggestions, and some of them are of course very true, and I kind of try to work on them, but I feel like I haven't really found the one thing yet that really makes the difference. You might be right about the forehead. It is one of the parts that I struggle the most with anyways. And basically at this point I'm satisfying myself with just making it look somewhat right. But I really should figure out how to do it more properly. It is just very hard to analyze parts of the anatomy that have almost no like reference points. Like with the eyes, you'll have the inner point, the outer point, and so on, and you can make references between these and draw like relationship lines and see the proportions. But on a smooth surface, you'll have to look at I don't know which part you want to measure it on. It's quite challenging. Let me try to make it more obvious. Feel free to put your guesses in the comments. That didn't quite work out, did it? Oh my god, I feel like giving up on the sculpt. Oh, that would be interesting. Yeah, if I ever get a mirror that I can put in front of myself, I'll try doing a self-sculpt. Yeah, one of the things that might be a reason is because in these situations like now, it's hard to actually work with a reference because of my setup with the screens. So I'm pretty much working without anything at this point, and that might be a good reason for why things tend to look a bit more distorted from reality than I would like it to be. I actually did want the self sculpt. It's on my Patreon page. If anybody cares to check it out. But I shouldn't get up your expectations too much. It was just a little experiment. It's nothing amazing. Okay, let's see if I can fix the forehead somehow. Also, I think I might step down the resolution a little bit now. I feel like I went too far with adding too much detail too early on. Oh wow, so many new comments. Let me see. There are some questions. Let me answer them quickly. So I've been doing this for, let's say, 3D in general for 9 years, but sculpting I only started out like 2 to 3 years ago, being more serious about it. But anyways, the other question that I can go a bit more in depth about is whether you need a university degree to get into 3D. And I think you really don't need to. In fact, I am at university right now, but what I'm studying has nothing to do with 3D at all. So while I do think that you'll gain a lot from going to university, I don't think that you have to go to university that is related to 3D at all, because what you usually learn in university is teamwork and what else? Social skills, communication, writing, and these are skills that you will need even as a 3D modeler, because you will have to deal with presenting ideas and speaking in front of people. And in that sense, it is very important to get this experience, but at the same time, I don't think that you need to evolve it around 3D modeling. So maybe find anything else that you're interested in, a language, a different subject, and study that. Of course, you can also go to art school, but in many cases that is not an option. I'm basically saying it for the people who cannot, for many reasons. Like even myself, I have my reasons why I couldn't go. So otherwise, I might have normally gone to art school because it feels like interesting things like I want to do. It is just very important to be able to control yourself, I believe, once you do it yourself, because when you're in university for business, for example, nobody will tell you to do 3D art. In fact, they might discourage you from doing it because they will say that it just messes with your performance in university, but you really have to be able to look beyond that and to stay with your goal. But if you can do that, I feel it's absolutely not necessary to go to a specific school or something to get into the industry. In the end, when you apply for a job, I believe, from what I've heard at least, that your skills are what count. And by skills, I don't only mean your 3D skills, but also your communication and presentation and teamwork skills. But if your skills are good, there is no reason not to hire you. So make sure that you're top on what the company wants, and then you're good. That's a really good comment on university. That's one thing you always get on university is the sense that you want to do something else. And it is so true. I was in high school, specialized in multimedia, and I felt like that was the worst. And I was studying different things before, and after a few months you'll feel like, oh my god, I can't do this anymore. Whatever you study at school or university, probably it will make you feel like that's not what you want to do, for whatever excuse, but but that's just part of it, I believe. Alright, I'll be around for another 10 minutes or so, so if you have any comments or questions, better bring them now. This sculpt really isn't my thing today. Maybe that's related to me not having sculpted anything for the whole past week because of what was going on, and unfortunately the next couple of days don't look too good as well. I kind of have some big projects coming up, like some workshops that I have to do, and they don't have anything to do with 3D, so that's kind of a shame, but I have to finish those and do a couple of meetings after this, and most likely I won't have much time left for this sculpting, and that's a shame, but what can I do about it? I'll just stay positive and go back to sculpting afterwards. I should sculpt in my sleep. What a suggestion. Sure, if that works, I'll try to do that. Yes, recently I used ZBrush. At this point I only use ZBrush, but I will be getting into many other tools soon, as soon as I feel comfortable with this tool. See, there is one really nice thing that I want to mention about showing your artwork though. Because as you can tell, I'm not too happy with my sculpt today, and that's more than enough reason to be frustrated and to be like, oh my god, I shouldn't ever stream again because people will see me messing up my sculpt and stuff. But there is actually still a lot of good things coming from this stream, like some of which being that some old friends start contacting me again and saying like, hey, you're doing things again, that's cool, and you'll be able to say again around people that you're actually involved in creating art and characters, and you can show them that you're doing things. So whether it is to get in contact with people that you haven't talked to in a long time, or whether it is just to keep you motivated or to keep you doing something, it just brings lots of positive things with it. So I would say never be afraid of showing bad artwork, because that's just part of it, and everybody should know that nobody is good right from the beginning. Everybody makes the same kind of steps to become a good artist. Oh yeah, speaking of which, Lime Studios in the comments here also streams a lot about his project. Unfortunately, I didn't have too much time to look at them, but I told, as he develops his game projects, the music rhythm game, I think he does like a developer stream kind of thing, where he will share about his project and his decisions. I believe that's what it is about. So sure, a lot to learn about it if you're a game developer. Good question. That kind of is good to ask. So Psychophantic, I hope that's how it's pronounced, asks, what are the basic things I need to know to start sculpting? I have a graphics tablet, so I think it will help. Yeah, that you have a graphic tablet is definitely a very good thing to have to start out with. I mean, sculpting without a tablet is just not so fun. So you have everything on the technical side that you need, I think. So all that's left is starting to sculpt. And I believe that, let's see, I will just guess that you want to make characters now because of the place where you're asking the question. It is probably a good idea to look at the approaches that various artists will do with their characters and try to follow those concepts, like starting out with a sphere. And it might not be bad to just follow along step by step with some other tutorials for like 2 or 3 times. That should be enough to get your to give you an idea of how the technical side of ZBrush works. As soon as you have the technical understanding of the software, I think you'll be able to grow like independent from that and to just start experimenting with your own methods and techniques. And from that point on, it will be basically a lot about studying proportions, a lot about studying anatomy, and finding out how you can use this knowledge to make your sculpts better. So maybe this will help you a little bit get started in sculpting. Alright, so I guess this will be about as far as I'll get with this sculpt. Like, it does look human. Is that enough? Is that enough for today? I hope it is. Yeah, so it has been around 1.5 hours. Anyways, I enjoyed it as always. It's always a very nice opportunity for me to learn, and it is like a guarantee for myself that I will like practice at least 1.5 to 2 hours on the weekends. Of course I do more, but this is like at least this much I will definitely do every week, and it keeps me from losing the connection to 3D again, as it has happened in the past. So whether I'm happy with the sculpt or not, I'm really confident that this is something that will help me in becoming a better 3D artist. And I'm honestly really looking forward to looking back at all these streams in the future, because often it's very hard to tell people that everybody starts out not too talented. And so this will be very nice to see the process over a year or so. So let me just thank everybody for joining today. It was a rather smaller gathering today, I believe, with 20 viewers or so. But I really appreciate it that you spent the time. And thanks for all the comments. So see you again next week then.